Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Taylor from CASAS. Welcome to the July CASAS News and Updates monthly webinar. Glad to see so many people are here today. We are going to be uploading the webinar recording to the CASAS website. So that is something that everybody always wants to know. I'll just tell you right up front. So today, and actually I should say we have uploaded the last two monthly webinars. So those are, the June one is there now, and the previous one is in our archive. So you should be able to get to those if you have not been able to attend before. Today, I'm going to cover some additional topics that I haven't covered before, and really spend a little bit of time thinking about what's happening in adult ed, what are current trends. I'm just going to say a few things about reading and math goals. I know it's on everybody's mind, but there have been other webinars that have covered a lot of the content there, so I'm just going to cover some new things and talk briefly about the basics. Then I'm going to show you some other new things. We have CASAS eTests sample items. You may have seen before, but I want to make sure everyone knows about those. Our new CASAS Reading Standards, 2nd edition, some new things about technology, and test reports and field testing and research. So that's in general what we're going to cover. I'm going to start with this PowerPoint, and then we're going to go onto the website and take a look at what's there. So in terms of what are the trends, I mean, I think we're all aware of them, but sometimes it's nice to see them all together and understand why it is that we feel that so much is going on and changing. For WIOA, there are trends in integration of education and training, IETs, that are posing challenges for all of us to figure out how to do them and do them well. That also relates very much to a new focus or a continuing focus on career pathways, transitions, and co-enrollment, and brings in EL civics and civic participation and as well citizenship preparation are things that have been there but are continuing as a focus. Across WIOA programs, we now have these common measures. So measurable skill gains are something that all the partners are concerned about now. The importance of various kinds of credentials, whether diplomas, credentials, degrees, certifications, badges, there's so many that are now coming into play and being more and more important for our learners and clients to document their skills. Employment and wages is something that needs following up on and documenting now. And transition to post-secondary and training, we've seen as an increasingly important thing for all of us to put our attention on. In technology, we do, as adult educators, have to keep up with technology, and that can be a challenge. Many of our students have mobile devices and can use apps so they can take advantage of blended learning, distance learning, and we can also help them to guide them to free resources like the X Prize for Adult Literacy apps that were developed for beginning level learners, adult learners. Open learning resources are more and more available. And then in order to share data among our WIOA partners, we have to look at how our data systems are set up and how can we share data still retaining privacy and security concerns. So these are all things that we're facing and trying to do better and better. How is CASAS responding to these demands? In terms of our assessments, we have the new goals series that is aligned to the CCR standards, so those are more rigorous academic standards, and our tests are quite different in this new goals series. That helps in documenting skill gains, of course, and workforce skills, because there is employment content in there as well. The reports will help you guide instruction and help you improve your programs. Those reports are also useful for your local agency and state accountability reporting. And then we do have new practice tests I'm going to show you in the new portal. In terms of eTests and TOPS for Enterprise, our eTest continues to be improved and of course you get immediate results from that. We're seeing more and more agencies around the country transitioning to eTests, which we're very happy to see, hoping that more and more of you can consider that. As I mentioned, electronic sharing of data with YOA partners is something with APIs and other ways that CASAS is working to help you do that. We're working on a new mobile attendance function that would be related to TE. The new student portal that has been piloted in California, in fact, is being used in California as a very innovative alternative to follow up on employment surveys. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, please let us know. And then we're also looking at how we can support case managers in a portal for counselors and transition specialists. So we're trying to be responsive to the new needs that WIOA and other new developments present, as time goes on. With the Civics, we have new additional assessment plans, COAPs, for the 2020 census and others supporting IET programs. So please take a look if you haven't for a while. That's on the CASAS website. And we have been doing some work, especially in California, with indicators of immigrant integration, a way to support immigrants to more easily integrate into our society in numerous ways. And we are developing instructional resources for the co-ops that will be available online in collaboration with OTAN, the California Technology Network. That's not the whole acronym, but more or less. And then in writing, I'm going to tell you about what we're doing that's innovative in writing. Now, I always want to mention this so that everybody's clear that starting July 1, the only CASAS assessments that can be used for NRS reporting for ABE are reading goals that is approved through 2025. It's the 900 series, and math goals approved through 2022. So the other assessments can no longer be used for NRS reporting. You should have already switched over to these two new test series for ABE. For ESL, the series you have been using, you'll continue to use for the next 2 years. That's true for all of the other NRS approved tests. The BEST Plus, the BEST Literacy, and the TABE Class C all have the same deadline for their current tests. So for CASAS, it's Life and Work Reading, the 80 series that includes beginning literacy, forms 27 and 28. And then this secondary level series, Reading for Language Arts, is approved for ESL. You might check it out. If you're on eTests, you can take a look at it. And it's more academic, could be used as an alternative to Level D for the Life and Work Reading if you're interested in that. Life and Work Listening 980 series is the same series that you've been using and should still be using for the next 2 years. So the next steps for our goals series is that we need to submit additional data for the reading goals for ESL. And we're going to be doing that in this coming year, and we'll need your help with that. We are going to be doing the same for the math goals so that we can submit additional data and have the approval extended for 4 more years. And then for listening goals, we are still doing studies, and our plan is to submit that next year. So this is the current status of ESL, is that we are basically still doing studies, and for ABE math goals is you can use it definitely until 2022, and then we're looking to extend that. Excuse me. The reading goals, paper test booklets look like this. They're still color-coded with, there's aqua one is the appraisal, then the blue level A, green B, brown C, and red D. What's different is that not only the covers are different and in color, but the insides are in color. So that's something that's new for the new series, and that's to help them match more to the online version. This is a summary of the Reading Goals series. I'm not going to go into detail with this. I've covered it on other webinars, so just that you can see that it's here, and this PowerPoint is also available online. So most important thing to know about the new series is that it's aligned to the CCR and the focus is on the standards, so no longer as much on the competencies. So that's a big shift. This blueprint shows that vocabulary is measured per se, especially at the higher levels with academic vocabulary. Then we have reading comprehension skills and higher order skills at DOK 1, Depth of Knowledge 1 for the reading comprehension skills, and higher order DOK 2 and 3. One slight change we just made is we added R9 to the higher order first category because compare details is something that we do cover, we realized, in these items, so we've added that to the chart. Otherwise, the chart is the same. And there's a more detailed chart on the website. These are the new score ranges for reading goals. You can compare them at your leisure to the old ones. They have shifted up, especially in levels 1 through 4. So take a look. What's new and important now to be aware of is that our CASAS reading standards, we did update in 2016 and really did a major overhaul where we combined, reduced, renamed, reorganized the categories and the standards and made it much more manageable. But we've just come out with a second edition that is currently posted online where we've added some new additional standards for the CCR in addition to the ones we'd already included. And so please reference the new second edition because the Top Score Enterprise reports for content standards for reading will be referencing this new edition, which does have some changes in the numbering of the the content standards, especially in the section 3. I'm going to go on show you that on the website too, so you can see more about how some new features of the reading standards. But basically, we have added the dots for ESL, and we have changed how we're displaying the relationship to the CCR standards in there. Math goals, these are the print booklets. They are also in color inside. This is an overview of the design of the series. Really important is that you must provide calculators. They're on screen. There's an icon in the top right that the student can click to get the calculator. But also if you're doing paper testing, you must provide a calculator. And on the website, we have FAQs that explain which calculators are okay and which are not. The calculator should be always with them throughout the test, but they don't always need it for every item, but they should have it for the paper test, and it's always there on the screen. And at the bottom here, the last bullet has some specific examples that do include the calculators that are used in the HSC test. So I do see a chat question. I'm not sure about the grade level chart. I think, Christy, we're going to have to get back to you about that if that's okay. So we'll address that after the webinar. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a detailed question, and I'd like to get back to you later. But the old scoring charts, yes, are no longer usable. You must use the new ones that are posted on the website, that are in the TAM, and that are in this PowerPoint. Okay, let me continue. This is the design of the math goals. I've covered this in other webinars quite a bit. Here's the content blueprint. We're going to look at the new one online. These are for math, the new scale score ranges. one thing I'll point out is the middle intermediate level is something that's new with the new series. I mean, there's still 6 levels, very important. That hasn't changed. So if you just refer, and that's how NRS refers to them as NRS 1 to 6, but in the NRS descriptors, there's something called middle and intermediate that didn't exist before, and there's only 1 level of adult secondary. All right. Now, when you're transitioning, and this would be just now for ABE students, because you'll remember that the goals tests are only currently approved for ABE and not for ESL yet. So we're talking about transitioning ABE students from last year to the new program year. Or in any case, when you're transitioning to this new goals series, you must give a pretest in the new series. So you'll need to do that for your continuing students. We recommend that you give the locator, whether it's reading goals actually or math, if you're in eTests, and if possible, the reading goals and the math goals appraisal for the paper. Generally, the same testing procedures apply for the new series, but if you're on eTests, you'll need to create new test sessions for the goals series. If you need help with that, just contact our tech support. So as far as the content standards reports and the competency reports, those same reports are still available for the goals series, but they have new content, of course. Okay, as people are saying, I'm going too fast. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be rushing you, but I will say that there are some new things that I want to make sure to cover today. And if this is your first webinar, or if you haven't been exposed to anything about the new series, I will ask you to go online and listen to last month's webinar or the month before, where you will be able to catch up with everything. So for the sake of those who have been attending trainings and updates, et cetera, for the last 6 months, I'm going to go a little bit faster, so I'm sorry, but that's why. All right. So the content standards reports, we have the same reports, but for the goals series. What's exciting, and we'll be able to show you in the next update in August, is some new CCR reports that will be available in TOPS Pro Enterprise, and they will also appear in the individual skills profile. They'll be available separately as a report or in the individual skills profile. And yes, the standards I mentioned, the reading standards, 2nd edition is posted. The math standards have not changed. And as I mentioned, these are both aligned heavily to the CCR. We have new listening standards coming. They're in development. We'll be sharing them with you in a few months, probably. All right, so there is this new CASAS eTest sampler. And when we go to the website, I'm going to show you how you can access it and what it looks like. But it is really something we're very glad to be able to have available now. And you can share this link with students so that actually if they want to get a sense of the items in eTest before they come to take the test, that would be possible, or at any point, so that they don't have to worry about what the test will look like or how to navigate through it. And what it shows, which is true now in eTests, is that because we transitioned to HTML, there are clearer images, there are ways to enhance the size and decrease the size of the screen, and new navigation features, which I'm going to show you when we look at that together. Let me see, I see there are a lot of questions. I think, I'm sorry, I'm going to just keep going for a bit and then try to address the questions in a little bit. So this is showing you where those new enhancements are in the in eTests, where you can see there's a progress bar that keeps moving up, getting bluer as you move through the test. And also you can see where there's sets of items. In this case, there are 3 questions that relate to this passage, and this is question 2 out of those 3. So, and then when it gets to another set, it would be 1 of, let's say, 4, 2 of 4, etc. So this is to help students see that there are multiple questions related to a passage, and that is something that is new in eTests for the goal series. Let me pause for a minute and go out to the website and show you some of the things that I've been talking about. Maybe I'll pause for a second too and take a look at some of the questions that have come up. Let's see. Yes, GL programs would need calculators. Yes, everybody needs calculators. As far as alignment to the CCR and a better predictor of, well, it has been a good predictor of success actually on the GED, and we have a study that documents that. So that is something I'm going to cover in a minute. We do need more participation in the study to so we can relate the new test, the goals test, to the GED, and then we'll be able to tell you the likelihood of passing. NEDP students don't have to be retested with goals, but they do have to, new students would have to be using goals. The individual skills profiles are available. It's just that they will soon be enhanced to include the CCR standards. As the report, right now they have the CASAS content standards with, as far as content standards go. One-stops, yes. I mean, if one-stops are doing remediation, you're using, you can use all the reports, but if you're just doing testing and then passing the students on to other programs to test, you may not need all of this information. So I hope that answered everybody's questions so far. All right, now on the website, you can see the logo at the top left. I will show you over here, oh, was there a minute ago. What's New had the webinar, but it's not there now. All right. We're going to go to product overviews. And then you can see, actually in terms of ordering, the CASAS catalog is there. And there are, if you click on order, different ways. This is, hopefully there's some, you know, pictorial ways that you can get help to order. All of the goals tests are now in the CASAS catalog, and there are special pages with the goals tests to help you order them. So now if you go, I'm going back to product overviews, and then go to, see on the side on the left, to assessments. You can see that there's a reading goals page, there's about order reading goals, there's math goals, and order that, and sample test items. So let's go to the reading goals page. You can see this is where I was saying that the webinar recording from, I'm not sure if it's May or June, but one of them is there, and that will give you a lot more of the basics about reading and math goals. Now, an important thing on this page is the test blueprint. I'm going to quickly open that so you can see what that looks like. It gives more detail about the content of the test at each level and about how the content relates to the CCR standards. And so just very quickly, if you look at the blue line in particular, that you can see how as the levels go up, like levels A and B are not very different from our old series, but the higher levels, that percentage of higher order reading skills is increasing when you get to level D, it's quite a bit higher. So that is something you can take a look at in more depth on your own. We have grade level equivalents for reading goals and math goals that look like this. And we just revised those a couple of weeks ago. So if you are interested in these, please do check them out and use the latest version. We also have FAQs that we're continuously updating, so that you know, we will, for example, as I mentioned, like the calculators question was added to the math goals. Then we have sample test items, a link to that here, which shows you the sample items in the paper test format. Then here is a chart that shows the basics about reading goals. I see there's a question here, a comment about, and I'm sorry I didn't see that question before, that you're, based on the locator, you're having 26% of the students test out of range. That is very surprising, because in our experience so far, that is a much higher percentage than we've seen. So I'm very sorry to hear that, and please keep in touch with us if that continues, because we do monitor that, and we are looking into, for the math, we are looking into actually looking at the data to see if we need to adjust the locator placements into the pretest forms for math goals. But I don't know, maybe you can let us know if that 26% was for math or reading. Maybe just if you could email us further about that with some details, that would be helpful. And the question, if someone tests out of range on eTests, will that person be given a different level test automatically? You have to go in and, I'm not an expert on this, but you do have to go into the test sessions and select one of the retest sessions for them to retest on the appropriate level. But it would automatically, I'm not sure exactly, honestly, how it works, but they would be given a different test level when they go back into test. Okay, for math. All right, thanks. Well, we are looking into that for the level CD in particular. Now, sampler test for the reading, no. The sampler test has sample items for reading generally and for math, and the items on the appraisals are like the items on the pre and post test. So the sampler test will give you an idea of the items on any reading or math goals test. All right. Now, so I want to show you now the math goals page, which has similar kinds of resources. And this is something, oh no, the math goals GLEs, as I mentioned, have just been updated. So please do check them and use the latest version. Something new is the Math Goals Test Blueprint. So let me make it a little bigger. Here you can see for levels A-B, the overview bar chart that shows how the content is distributed across these test forms. The level A-B is a combined form. And so for operations and the number system, 33% of the test covers that content area. But for this category, we have subcategories, and that's how you will be able to see students' performance in base 10 and separately for fractions and ratios. And here you can see the CCR content standards that relate to the items in these categories. Then also in measurement and data, we have two subcategories, one for measurement and another for data analysis, or how the data is displayed. Then at the level CD, this is how the content plays out. And for this level, we do not have any subcategories, so it's a much lower percentage, or a somewhat lower percentage of operations in the number system, so there aren't enough items to break out the skills at this level. I mean, in this, yeah, this level in this area. All right, so this just again tells you all of the CCR references. So hopefully this will be useful to you. Sorry, now back to the math goals page. We also have math goals FAQ, and also the chart showing the math goals test design and the amount of time you can allow. I want to just mention that these timings are the amount of time you need to schedule or allow. And not all students will take this much time. But the thing is that it's important for you to allow this much time because our studies show that, well, and I should say that in order to give good access to students and ability to show their skills, it's important to schedule this much time, even though many students will not need the whole 75 or 60 minutes. They may finish much less. And we haven't calculated, we can, and we may soon do that, calculate the average time. And that's interesting, but it's not something that you can use to, determine your logistics and your scheduling. So again, you may be pleasantly surprised that students don't take as long as 75 or 60 minutes, but please do allow that much time, to be fair. Now, I want to show you, if you see here on the left side, there's a link to the sample test items, and that will take you to the sample test items for all of the series, whether it's, for ESL, Life and Work Reading, Life and Work Listening, math goals, reading goals. So, and if you were to go to reading goals, let's say, you'll see the paper test version of these. So if I click on level C, the format for these, take a second to come up, is how it looks in the paper tests, and you can see the color and all. But, and of course these would be on facing pages for that. But, so this is, familiar, the paper version. But let's go back, and I want to show you. The eTest sampler. So see here, top of this column on the left. So it's marvelous. It opens up to the simulation that is going to look just like it does on eTests. The pink ones are the reading, and you can still get Life and Work Reading in the, now newly, you can get the Life and Work Reading in the eTest format. The math goals, we're going to be putting up more at each level soon. And for listening, it's here. So if we go to level C in the eTest format, we're going to see the opening screen. Then so now you can see this is a practice, and we have the display on the left, the questions and the distractors on the right. We can make it bigger on either side. So if I just want the display to be bigger, as you can see that plus or minus buttons, I'm adjusting those. And on the right side, if I need that, if it's maybe a little too big, I can make it smaller. And here you can see it's practice, and this is one of two. So let's see, I'm going to just take you through the practice and get to a couple of items so you can see. I don't know why sometimes this does come up a bit too large on the item on the distractor side. So, oops, didn't get that right. All right. So now we have the option of doing more practice or going ahead. Now this is that same display we saw before, but it's in the eTest format. We can make it bigger. If we make it even bigger, we can scroll if we need to. Then the distractors are here. And here again, you can see that scroll progress bar, and there are 3 questions. One of the ways that we made the test shorter was by having more questions related to each passage. And we wanted to signal that to students so they could see that, there's going to be a number of questions about this particular reading. So better dig in and try to figure it out. So here, I'll just quickly go through so you can see how it works. And if I do skip a question, it'll ask me if I really want to. And then later on, and I'm not going to take time now to go all the way to the end, but there is a review pane that comes up where all of the questions that are skipped appear, and the student can simply click on those questions. It takes you right back there, and the student, if they have time, can try to attack and do some of the questions that they skipped before. I see a comment, some of our students have been confused by the progress bar. I'd be interested to hear what it is that's been confusing to them. But actually, hopefully now you can use this eTest sampler to help them understand it better if you go over it in class and explain it, and they can see how the progress bar is, we can see now, like, I mean, hopefully you're not confused by it, but that when we go to the next item, then it becomes question 5 out of 19, and the next item becomes question 6 out of 19. There's only 19 practice questions. So please do take advantage of this eTest sampler to help them, lessen their confusion. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with the demo of this student portal or eTest sampler. So, okay, there's a question, I guess, that maybe I didn't see. Which item do I choose as a sampler for the appraisal, math, and reading? Well, that's true. Okay, so the appraisal does cover items across the continuum. So you don't necessarily have to look at all of them, but if you want to see the whole spectrum of questions, you could look at every level. Or if you want, it's a little easier maybe to look at the paper versions. That way, with the sampler, you have to get all the way through to see all of them. So with the paper versions like this one, you can kind of more quickly scroll through and see the kinds of questions that are there. Yes, the comment here that, okay, the confusion may be about the 3 of 4 conflicts with the, how many items, yeah. So that is, there's 2 kinds of information up here in the top right. One is that, well, on the left is the progress bar of all the questions. Where are they in moving to the end of all the questions? And this one is just the set of questions that they're on. I mean, I know this is a little bit different, and it is something that, like the progress bar, you should try to explain to your students so that they can see what this far right is telling them. That it's just within the same, for the same passage, it's how many questions there are and which one they're on. So hopefully by demonstrating that, you'll be able to clarify that for students. Okay. Let me now go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to tell you a little bit about writing assessment. It's very exciting. With our NEDP, National External Diploma Program, we have tried out automated scoring, that is machine scoring, for the diagnostic kind of entry requirement of a written prompt. It's an essay task. And we had very good results with it. We found that the machine scoring engine did a very good job. We trained it, to score. And So as of last month, we have taken that to scale with all of our NADP clients, new clients coming in. And so this is to let you know that we are looking to just make sure that everything is working well. Then we're going to look into how to make this available to others around the country. And it is something that is not NRS approved, so it would be an optional additional assessment. But it is a tool that we think would be helpful because often teachers or programs want to know how students' writing is, but it's very time consuming to score an essay. So this is a real advantage that the computer offers us, is to do that in really a nanosecond it happens, and we've seen that the accuracy is pretty good. I mean, not 100%. There may be some, unusual kinds of essays or responses that it doesn't work perfectly for, but the benefit of it working well for the vast majority of essays is really something I think that will help the field to do more writing assessment and understand better and help our students better with writing. So this is something for the future to let you know that it's in the works. This is what I was mentioning earlier, that we do need help from you to get more of your students that are taking the GED or the HiSET and are taking the CASAS reading or math goals to to send us the information about their CASAS scores, and we then have cooperative agreements with the GED and the HiSET to link up their scores. And then we don't really need a huge amount of data, but we do need more data for the eTests, the HiSET math and the GED reading and math, so that we can present that likelihood of passing report to you. So please, if you can help us with that, this is how you can contact us to help with those studies. We also need help with math goals and reading goals for ESL, listening goals for ESL. So this is how you can help us participate in those studies. All right, so we have a couple of questions I can address real quickly, hopefully. The time for the locator is 15 minutes, up to 15 minutes. I think that was how much time was allowed before, too. The locator is different now in that it's a fixed form rather than an adaptive test. And so we hope that that will be working better, especially for the lower level students. So up to 15 minutes for the locator, which is only available on eTests. The writing assessment, yes, both ESL and ABE and HSE students, yes, both. Here's someone saying they have, Dana, you've used the writing test with any students, good information for high and low students. It's improving delineating scores for students in the middle. Great, glad you're happy. All right. I hope I have addressed all the questions at this point. Let me carry on here with the PowerPoint. Yes, speaking of NADP, here we are. A little bit about NADP. It's a competency-based high school diploma program that is an alternative for students that have test anxiety or for other reasons don't want to take the GED, HiSET, or TASC. So we are expanding to new states. We've got new professional development that we're offering. We're doing a lot more marketing to try and spread the good word about it. I mentioned about the written prompt as an innovation there, and we have a new scholarship for students to help them move on in post-secondary. So we're really moving ahead in a number of ways with our NADP. If you're not familiar with it and would like an alternative for your students that struggle with standardized tests for high school equivalency, please contact us. The Workforce Skills Certification System is something that is, we're finding is increasingly of interest now that the partnerships in WIOA have been more, should say, active. And in various regions, they're looking at ways to assist our learners and clients to be able to demonstrate to employers what their skills are. And so what this system does is it integrates, it pulls together their skills. So if they've taken, let's say, the math and the reading, it's a little bit hard to see here, but on the right there's an example of the workforce skills profile that gets generated from this, where what the reading and math test they already took gets populated into this report. And then we have a soft skills assessment that's a video simulation that they can take. If there's a cost for that, but it's not very expensive. And that, I would say, enhances their ability to demonstrate their good soft skills, work qualities when applying for a job, or trying to get a promotion. So this is something that we encourage you to look into. There's more information on the website, or contact us about it. Quick search, we do keep updating. We have someone that's solely devoted to doing this work. So as the CCR gets more implemented in our educational resources, we're continuing to update the Quick Search database with those resources, both print and software. Here's a question about where you're transitioning from tape to CASAS. You need to use goals, absolutely. No question about it. All right. Technology-wise, we have some innovations. Let me just get right into them. We have the student portal, which the eTest sampler is a part of that student portal. And as I mentioned, we've got the core performance follow-up survey was our first project that we have tried out in California. We have a couple other states that have expressed interest. So if you want to hear more about that, it's a way to contact students through the portal. I know it's through text messages and maybe emails as well. I'm not sure of all the details. And then I showed you the sample goals items in the eTest sampler. In phase 2, we're looking at how to find a way to help you register students online through the portal, and to monitor progress, have a way that students can see their progress and teachers can more easily see their students' progress. So there's a lot of benefits using mobile devices. This is a way that, if teachers can communicate quickly and easily with students, they can nudge them if they haven't been attending, which would help retention. The follow-up possibilities for those surveys is a really big benefit. So just better engagement with students in ways that they actually communicate, which is on their phones. The CASAS implementation training is something that we have recently done some major work on. We realized that the current CASAS implementation training that's a Moodle course on our website, well, I should say that I think it's been very useful for a lot of programs to get started, because if there's no availability of face-to-face training, it's a way to get started with CASAS for free in terms of the training requirement. But the current course is a little bit outdated in the sense that it doesn't incorporate very much about using eTests and some other things that are new for CASAS. So we also we decided to revamp the training course to be in modules that would be more attuned to the specific roles that people have in your agencies. And so let me show you how this is organized now. And it's not up yet on the website. This is a preview of coming attractions that hopefully in a month or two we'll be able to have this live, and you'll be able to use it in your states and programs. So the first module is an overview, and you can see in the chart below that Module 1 is for all types of users. But Module 2 is focused on eTests. So if you're a tester and you're only doing eTests, if you see below, you would do Module 1 and 2. And if you're a tester who's only doing paper, you would do Modules 1 and 3 because Module 3 is focusing on paper. If you're doing both, you must do all 3. And if you're a teacher and have nothing to do with actually giving the test, this is where we created Module 4 that focuses in on interpreting test results and reports that teachers need to know. And so we would recommend that teachers do Module 1 as an overview and then Module 4. And of course, anyone else is more than welcome and in fact encouraged to do Module 4 to understand more about the reports. All right, I want to get into some of the changes in the reports in the new series. For content standards, we have the individual student reports and the class reports that are, when it says summary, that means it's a class report. So in the goals series, one of the changes that's important is that only one content standard is related to each test item. And that is going to simplify the interpretation and use of the reports. And that's also because in the development of the new series, as I mentioned earlier, we were very focused on focusing on the CCR, and so each test item really does pretty much measure one standard primarily. So in the content standards reports, which here's how you access them in TOPS Pro Enterprise, you go to the reports tab, then test results, then content standards, then you'll see these possibilities, the individual and the class, and you can sort in different ways. And then here's an example of a level C reading goals, where you can see this is how the reading content standards, that's what the CASAS standards, are noted with these numberings, RDG 2.3, for example. This has 4 items. This particular individual student got 50% correct, and here's this content standard. But you can see that there's a limited number of standards that relate to this test form. Here's the same thing for the class, where this percentage is telling the class performance. Now for the competency, I just want to mention too that the content standards reports even the individual ones are only available with the enhanced version of eTests. So if you only have the basic level of access to eTests, you might want to think about getting enhanced so that you can get the content standards reports, and also you only get the class performance reports with the enhanced. Now for student competency reports, you get that with the basic reports, but not the class performance version. But similarly, for the goals series, but this is a little more extreme, I think you'll find that for each set of test questions, that is for every reading passage and all the related questions, there's only one competency that's referenced. So this will make the reports much easier to manage and be more meaningful because there are more items related to each of the competencies. And I'm going to show you in a minute what I mean by competency categories. So again, here's how you get to these with test results and competency performance. And now this is, if you were to do probably what you're doing normally now is a 3-digit level competency, the 425, for example. In the goals series, what you're going to find is that the first 4 questions are all the same passage, and they all have the same competency. Then the next set of questions also has the same competency. So this is true for the individual performance, and then it's also true for the class level performance. See, it's all the same. But now there is a report that's always been in TOPS Pro Enterprise, but we're encouraging you to take a look at it, is the competency category, which is, if you see the competency number, it's 4.2. So instead of let's go back one. Instead of 4.2.5 or 4.6.2, instead we're seeing just the 4.2 or the 4.6. So here, and this is, I'm not sure how this is sorted actually, but anyway, you could sort this by competency number, and then you'd have the employment ones together. And you can see how much more readable and usable this is, and that there are a significant number of items for each competency area, so you can really make some judgments about how the students do on each of these areas. I mean, actually, not only in terms of the what's on the test, but I would encourage you to use this competency category in other areas that you're using the competencies for instruction. There's a class level version. All right, now the skill reports, individual skills profile, and then the summary. We have the skills profile, and this is the old one. I'm just showing you in the bottom left, this is that likelihood of passing that we don't have yet in goals. So hopefully you'll help us to get that data so we can give it to you. And here is the individual skills profile that is actually about to come out with much more detail here in the reading standards or in the CCR standards. Just quickly on the Summer Institute dates for next year in Orange County. But I want to quickly go, this relates to what somebody's asking right now. We just recently released the Reading Goals Test Administration Manual reports. And if you didn't receive it, if you're doing paper testing, or actually if you're doing eTests as well, and you had ordered a test administration manual for reading goals or math goals, and the early versions did not have the reports in them yet. So if you have not already received that, we tried to send that out to everyone who ordered it. But if we missed anyone, please let us know, and we will send that to you right away. I just want to quickly show you a few of these reports that, because there's a couple of new ones and different ways that we're representing them. This first one is something very basic, but that we felt was important for you to have. And that is just to simply list the students in a class and which test form they took, the test date, and the scale score. Because that information alone can be very helpful when you're doing groupings, let's say, for in classwork, or just to know the range of your students. You know, if you can enter them in ascending order, that can be helpful too. So this is a new report that you can hopefully find useful. And then in the content standards report, well, this is a summary of the different reports. So we have the student performance by content standard in the order of the test questions, but then we also have done a version of that that's in the order of the content standards. And the class profile in test question order and in content standard order. So here you can see this is in test question order for the content standards, but I think you'll see, and if I show you when it's sorted, here you can see all of the area 2 ones together. So 2.2, 3.12, 3.11, those are grouped together. I don't know why. No, I'm sorry. These are still in test order because we have to get through all of the test forms until we get to the next section. Okay, these are still in test question order. All right, there's a lot of, for every single test form, there's one of these, and I'm sorry, it's hard to scroll through and get to the ones that are not in test question order. Oh, here we go, here's one. So here we can see this one is for the content standards. That's not in test question order, but it's in order grouped by content standards. So there are the standard 2, 2.3, and 2 and 3 are together, and 2.8, then you get to the category 3. So this is a more meaningful grouping of the content. Same thing in this for the competencies. I'm running out of time, so I won't show you that, but let me just see. I think we have a couple more questions. There was a question about the student portal is available now, And that's, we're referring to it as the portal, but it's also called the eTest sampler. That's something that I just showed you on the CASAS website. So if you go to here it is, even on the Reading Goals page, you can get to the eTest sampler just by clicking on eTest sampler. Let's see, I don't know if there are these reports available for people who use paper, so that's why I showed you the TAM. I think I've covered all the questions. And if I haven't, maybe, Christine, if you can enter my email or the general CASAS email if you want to ask questions, be happy to answer them. So hopefully this has been useful for you. We will very shortly upload this webinar recording onto our CASAS website. It'll be on the home page, and we will also be letting you know about upcoming monthly webinar dates. The next one is on Wednesday, August 21st at the same time, 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern. So thank you very much for joining you. It was amazing. I think this is a record number of participants. We had 189. I just glanced. It may have been more on the call. So thank you so much for your interest and for your ongoing use and support of CASAS. Thank you.